Hey guys, welcome back to the layout. So this is going to be HO Layout 2.0 Update 1. If you haven't already seen my latest video, it is I guess about 2.5 minute kind of goofy surprise reveal that I'm getting out of N scale and back into HO. There's a couple reasons for this. I put a lot of thought into it. It comes down to I wasn't happy with N scale. It was just too small, and I struggled to do basic things. And there's a couple different reasons for that, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. It kind of got to a point where this had become another dumping ground, and I hadn't even looked at it. And when I tried to force myself to work on it, I just wasn't happy with the result. And I needed to make a decision. And I knew that if I had decided to throw in the towel like I had in the past by selling everything off and getting out of the hobby, eventually I would regret that. Because I do love the hobby. I do love trains. I love a lot of different things about the hobby. But, I came back because I wanted to. And I built these modules because I regretted selling my HO years ago. And so I knew that just by kind of blanket selling N scale and stripping these modules down, I would regret that in the long run. And so I decided to do some research and take a risk and go back to HO. Now, the risk is I'm going to be reusing these modules, and that becomes slightly problematic because on these bigger modules at the ends, they're 3 feet square, which means my max track radius is going to be 15 inches pretty well. I can go a little bit more. In fact, these are 16 inches about, but the smallest radius is that lower grade there, and that is 15 inch. Now I can kind of modify that to make it 16, but regardless, obviously a lot of the minimum, recommended radius is 18. And I wanted to make sure that this was possible because I like HO a lot more. I think there's a lot more detail, a lot more functionality, just overall easier, and I'm much more familiar with it. So there was kind of a sense of comfort with this. N scale, I always kind of was not sure what I was doing, whereas HO, I'm much more comfortable. So after doing a lot of research, which was kind of inconclusive to say the least, I decided to take the risk and order a couple things. Now, I ordered enough track for the main line with switches and crossovers, and I ordered 2 locomotives and 3 boxcars. Now, the reason I did this is because I decided if this didn't work, that I would simply just pack everything up and keep it until we move into a bigger house, which may or may not happen in the next few years. So knowing that I have, only a couple years, I didn't want to use the same storage room that I did with my other layout. Not only is it completely full, basically floor to ceiling with things, but the only viable layout kind of layout design, I guess you could call it, I could have, or track plan, or whatever you want to call it, was going to be extremely, extremely similar to what I was running, where the yard, if I had one, would be against the wall, and I would have to have some sort of bridge for the door. I would be running short radius because I only have limited space. And I knew that I wanted to try something different, so I wanted to go with this. I have tested it because, like I said, unfortunately, the research I did was kind of inconclusive. I found that a lot of forums and a lot of comments where you search and people say, "Hey, I'm running 15-inch radius," and a lot of these people are, redesigning an Atlas kind of pre-built layout that they found in a magazine or a book. Where they're using Atlas SnapTrack or not all of them, but a lot of them did. And, unfortunately, a lot of people have the attitude that instead of providing information and trying to be supportive, they reply with, "Oh no, don't bother if you're only going to do 15-inch radius, go at least 18 or 20 or 22." And although I completely understand where they're coming from because I've been in that position, um, the nice thing about this hobby and many hobbies is you can be flexible with it. Obviously, the minimum radius of a lot of locomotives and rolling stock is 18-inch radius. I know that. I've been there. I've dealt with derails due to tight radiuses on my last layout. I had 18-inch radius and therefore had trouble running 6-axle locomotives, but I only have room for 15 and I wanted to try to make it work. So I bought some smaller 4-axle switching locomotives and I limited my rolling stock to 40 scale feet. After testing it, I had my wife hold down the track. I did a little tighter because, like I said, these are 16. The N scale curves around here were 16-inch. After doing a little tighter to emulate 15s and testing it, it was successful. And in fact, these are Baldwin DS44 1000s. I realized that I could go even a little tighter, and I don't plan to, but I think they could do maybe a 14-inch radius if needed. But what got me to try that is not everybody was, like I mentioned, some people were, had the attitude where don't bother, go to 18-inch, but there were a few forum posts that actually listed locomotives and brands and mentioned how you can possibly modify some of the truck details to allow tighter radiuses. And, I really appreciate that attitude. I know it's not prototypical. I know it's not even ideal. I know it may look funny going around the curves, but the thing is, in my case, I really like the idea of having a loop. I understand I could have a really nice switching layout, a point to point, but that's just not what I want. And I think it really comes down to personal preference. And that's the really great thing about, YouTube and forums and Facebook now. And I'm not on Instagram, but Instagram is actually, I guess I am on Instagram. I just don't post. I just lurk. um, is you get to see everybody do their own thing. Some people are all about the prototypical, real world locations with real world trains, down to, the rivet. And then you have some people who have UFOs abducting cows with, European locomotives pulling, US rolling stock or North America rolling stock, and I think it just kind of comes down to personal preference. And I really appreciate that everybody kind of has their own way of doing it. So I'm really happy that this worked because after doing the test, it really allowed me to kind of design a layout that I'm happy with. That for once doesn't have track crammed everywhere, although I shouldn't say that before I show you. So I will be reutilizing these modules. Now let me show you, I've got it up on my computer screen. So if I do a side-by-side, so this was my N-scale layout plan. You can see I had my 2 reversing loops here, and it was 2 levels. I come down, there was a nice yard. I had some industry switchings here, and then up top I actually had some nice industry switchings with some crossovers. Now, that was really great, and I was really happy with it, but obviously we're not going to do that. So we're here, and you can see I've still got the 2 reversing loops. Like I said, they're about 16-inch radius. This is the tightest, which is 15, but I can always change that. I do have a little bit of wiggle room, so I may end up modifying that once I get it down. You can see I've got a very small passing siding because I figure the amount of rolling stock I'm going to be hauling behind the locomotives is very few, and I've just got the incline up to a very basic yard for some storage. I do have 1 track for making some trains, again, very small trains, and then coming up, and we have a basic loop. Now the purple is underground. You can't really see the outline of the top layer, but basically a very small passing siding there as well. And we have some 2 and then 3 basic industries going over a crossover. So it's obviously in the perfect world I would have more track, but I don't, and I'm very happy with this, because I think it's going to be simple, but it's gonna fill my needs until I can have more space. So that's the plan. It's probably going to change, but until I get more space, these are probably going to be my only 2 locomotives. I may get one more depending, but it's going to have to be the similar kind of idea, a very small 4-axle switcher, or I know some of the Jeeps are smaller. I could always go with a smaller steam engine. Apparently anything 260 or beneath will work. So we'll see, but I'm gonna keep my rolling stock to 40 scale feet. I decided to go with Pico switching turnouts. I always loved the Pico turnouts. I love the idea of the built-in spring, because I won't be running any switch machines. The only 2 kind of modifications I'm going to do on the switches are the below and on top. I will likely have a spring switch so that the trains will always go one direction unless otherwise, or at least this bottom one, because I can't get to it easily. The top one, I may or may not do that, just so then I can leave a train running and it kind of takes care of itself. Other than that, for flex track, I am using cork again this time, just like I did on my N scale layout. I like the cork a lot better than the foam. I didn't dislike the foam in any way, actually. I like the foam a lot, but I like the cork better. I think the foam is great. Sound wise, I haven't tested it with HO, and I haven't seen a side-by-side comparison, but I just like cork. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. Again, personal preference, but for the flex track and obviously the crossover, I went with Atlas code 100. Now I know code 83 is the way to go, and I fully intended to go to code 83 if I ever came back to HO, but with the tighter radius curves, I find that the code 100 rails are taller and a little more robust, which may give me a little more stability for the tight curves. And realistically, I don't care that much about track ties and how they look. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna wrap it up here. It's been, we're just over 13 minutes of literally just me talking. So I'm gonna wrap that up. Oh, and if you haven't seen in my last video, I got these nice strip lights, although of course, because of China, I don't know if it's from China or if all of them do that, but this first row all the way around is nice and bright, and these aren't as bright. Now, that's actually the very end. It kind of jumps from here to there, and there's a small portion up here, and then up here, and then it does this whole one, and then goes along the back. So this is actually the very last one, and it's the least bright. It's still plenty bright, and the purpose was, when I was here working on my N-scale stuff, sorry for the crazy mess, I'm blocking the light with my head, so you can see a little shadow here, and so this at least gives me more light. Now, I've thought about maybe splitting this up some more, and adding a better power supply. The whole set cost me under $30 on eBay, so I really have no complaints about that. It actually works great for what I paid, and I'm very happy with it. I just may modify it to make it more bright in the future. That's it. Honestly, we're starting back from scratch. I'm going to leave the inclines in place because I've designed the new layout to use them. I may rip up and modify some, but for the most part, the inclines and everything are staying the same. So that's about it. I'm going to try to make some nice progress. Kind of, it's going to be slow but surely. And now that I have some locomotives, as soon as, Chris's layout gets going up again, I know he just recently put power on it. I can actually, instead of coming over and sitting and doing the live show, which was great. But when people run trains and stuff and bring over trains, that's kind of fun to be able to do that. And I was never able to do that since I sold my stuff. So I'll be able to do that again once I get DCC on these. And I'm excited. I'm really glad to be back. A lot of people are making jokes that, I came back from the dark side, and I saw the light and I came back, and I'm just really happy to be back. Eh, like I said, there's a lot more comfort in HO, and I'm really excited to tackle this project, and tackle the 15-inch radiuses, because not a ton of people do that, especially on like a modular layout like this. So stay tuned, guys. I'm gonna start cranking out more train videos. I know I've got some car videos, I've got some train videos. I'm gonna mix it a little bit, but my main focus on this channel still is train stuff. And with this whole COVID thing still going on, I don't know how train shows and stuff will happen. Due to my career and my wife's career, I still want to be taking some precautions. Therefore, I won't be doing the live show with Chris and Mark if I can help it. Just because I don't want to risk their safety, because I work in a hospital and my wife is a teacher. Therefore, we both are kind of at risk more than, the average person. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you guys are excited to see me back. And like I said, keep an eye out for new videos. So thank you very much. And until next time, enjoy your bacon.